Yeah, that's an armadillo. Hi, welcome to the show. It's hard to think of an Australian actress who's carved a longer and more successful path on Australian television than Rebecca Gibney, and it seems that the longer she goes down that path, the more successful she becomes. Let's go through just some of the hits. We're talking Flying Doctors, Halifax FP, Come and Spinner, Wanted, Winter, and of course, Packed to the Rafters. The amazing thing about Rebecca, though, is that even though she often plays grounded and calm women, who could be more loved than Julie Rafter, that's not the background from which she comes. I found this out when I first spoke to her 16 years ago and discovered that she's been dealing with issues of self-esteem and panic attacks because of her childhood pretty much all of her life. Today, Rebecca's carving a path not just in front of the camera but behind the scenes, blazing a trail for other women in a notoriously difficult industry. I'm really delighted to catch up with her again. She's a great laugher, a guaranteed good time, super smart and just a wee bit gorgeous. I'll try not to gush. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, make a welcome Rebecca Gibney.
Hello.
Say another letter.
I didn't wear heels. Thank you so much. Oh, that's really lovely.
It's lovely to have you here and congratulations. A few days ago, the New Zealand accent was voted the sexiest in the world.
Yes, it was. I couldn't understand it. That's fantastic, though, isn't it?
What is it about the New Zealand accent?
That's really sexy.
Really?
Yeah.
You actually had Australian lessons, didn't you?
I did.
Which must have taken, what, about a minute to learn to speak Australian?
No, it took a long time. Then I sounded really ochre. Then, mate, I was going like this, you know. But no, I had this, it was kind of this really sweet accent, and it was up here.
Oh.
Yeah, it was nice. Thank you. It was good.
And now you've moved back to New Zealand, have you reverted to New Zealandese?
No. I mean, look, it's weird because we had no intention of moving back to New Zealand, really. I mean, we went back to do Wanted.
Yep.
And within a couple of weeks of being there, our son turned around and said, Mum, I want to stay here. And I was like, well, that's a bit hard because my job's in Australia. But he loved it so much. And he said, I feel like I'm at home. And I went, well, you were born in Tasmania, so
Close enough. I'm with him in New Zealand. I've always thought New Zealand is what Australia would be if Australia was a bit nicer.
Australia's lovely.
Australia is lovely, but New Zealand's even lovelier.
No, I wouldn't have this career if it wasn't for Australia. I wouldn't have this life if it wasn't for being here.
Well, let's talk about this career.
Okay. Okay.
Because you never had an acting lesson.
No.
What made you think you could act?
I don't know. Someone gave me a job. I didn't actually. I was working in a fruit shop. My mum ran a fruit shop, and I was working in a fruit shop. I was doing part-time modelling, and I was working as a receptionist at a modelling agency. And a German director came through town, and he wanted to interview real people for a film. And I kind of did it, and I got the film, and I hated every second of it. And I went, I'm never doing that again.
It's interesting, though, because that first job with the German director,
yeah,
your first acting experience, he slapped you in the face to make you cry.
He did.
Why wasn't that your last acting experience?
Well, exactly. I said I didn't want to do it again. I said, if this is what acting is, if you can shove it, I don't want to do it. And then Television New Zealand got wind of it, and they asked me to audition for this children's series. And I had so much fun. And then I came to Australia for a holiday, and someone said, well, do you want to go meet some agents? And I literally just walked in off the street to an agency and I went, hi. And she went, did you make an appointment? I went, no. Did I need to? I didn't ever expect to do anything. She set me up for these auditions and I got homesick and went back to New Zealand. And 3 weeks before Christmas in 1984, I got a call to say, you've got both jobs you auditioned for, and one was Neighbours and one was Zoo Family.
And you wisely chose the one that nobody ever heard of again.
Do you know what? She actually gave me very good advice because she said it was a brand new show called Neighbours and no one had ever, seen it or heard of it before.
Yeah.
But she said it was going to be a hard slog. And because I hadn't had any experience and I was very green, she suggested a gentle children's show. And so I did.
Of course, your career since then, I mentioned in the introduction, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Come and Spinner and Halifax FP and Wanted, which we'll get to later. And
Flying Doctors.
Flying Doctors, let's not forget that, the mechanic, the sexy mechanic, all of these things. But of course, probably the first thing people think of with you is Julie Rafter, because Packed to the Rafters, like for half a decade, dominated our screens.
Yeah.
and people so loved you in that role. What was it they loved?
You know what, it was so beautifully written. I remember getting the script and I couldn't put it down. I read it and it just had magic all over it. And then Eric Thompson had already been cast and so had Michael Caton. And then we saw these amazing auditions for Jessica Murray and Hugh Sheridan. And we sat down for the first read-through and all of us looked at each other at the end of it and just went, this is going to be something special.
So people would stop you after a while.
Jules!
And ask for a Julie Rafter hug.
Yeah.
What was a Julie Rafter hug?
Well, she was kind of coined the mother of Australia, which I love that. And I loved playing her. She was so comfortable to me because she reminded me of all my sisters and my mum.
Yeah.
And I loved the cast. And we were a family. And it was like the best 7 years of my life.
You, obviously we know you're an actor, but we've discovered what we think is your secret life.
That scares me.
Which is as a dancer. So let's go through this. You were the Evelyn Childs Dance Academy as a child.
Yes, I did.
Then on Ready to Roll, New Zealand's equivalent of Countdown, where you were a dancer.
I was a dancer.
And here's some footage of you in Packed to the Rafters, a late night edition as far as we can tell.
Oh, no!
Here's Julie Rafter getting it on.
Oh, no! Oh, no! Oh, no!
I told you to end with feathers. Big finish, ladies!
Oh, no! Oh, no! That was fun.
That was fun. What was actually happening there?
Well, I was preparing to do a striptease for Dave.
I certainly didn't see that episode.
You didn't see that
Rafters,
episode?
No.
It was fun. It was really fun.
Do you still get the Hello Jules after all these years?
I do. Actually, funnily enough, a few years ago, my family and I went on a cruise overseas and we were docked in Croatia and people had gotten on, 300 insurance salesmen and their wives from
exciting.
Australia.
Yes.
And they all knew who I was. And every corner I turned around, Jules, meet you at the bar. And I'm like, yeah, no, please. But it's lovely. I mean, everyone's so nice about it. Like, I don't ever feel bad. I don't ever feel put upon.
You mentioned that your work's been seen overseas, and it has. And you actually did have a Hollywood moment too. You had an encounter with the casting director of Disney. What do you remember of that?
Well, it was interesting. I remember sitting there and she was running 45 minutes late and there was a giant poster of Susan Sarandon and there was another big poster of Gina Davis and I sat there going, this is not me. Why am I here? I'm just joining a long line of other hopefuls. I've got this incredible career back in Australia. What am I doing here? So by the time I got in to sit down with this woman, I went, sorry, wasted your time, going back to Australia. And she goes, wait, sit down. She said, what? And I said, I can't do this. I don't want to do this.
Did she respond to that? Or
She did, actually. She actually called the agent and said, I love her. I love her.
Yeah.
She needs to do they wanted me to audition for a Robin Williams film.
Right.
But at that stage, I'd already accepted Altogether Now.
I want to show some footage of you in your first big screen role. You played a mum of a whole gaggle of girls called Shirley, who ended up in a psychiatric institution. This is from a PJ Hogan film called Mental.
Nancy Boyle! Nancy, hello! Hello! Look at all the furniture. It's all right. You don't have to be afraid of it. It's not rubbish. It's all new. Fabulously new from my husband. He calls you noxious Nance behind your back. He does. He says you're a nasty, gossiping bitch. But I think that's unfair because you have done a lot for this community. Or at least act like you have. So I want you to have this lamp. Is your oldest daughter really a lesbian or is that just malicious gossip?
I loved Shirley. I loved Shirley.
You really wanted that part.
I so wanted that part.
Tell me about the audition.
I read the script and I went, this is like my mum. This felt like Shirley, and her name was Shirley.
Yeah.
And I desperately wanted it, so I dressed up in a muumuu and I put like butterfly clips in my hair and I think I had purple eyeshadow and pink lips and I was the first person that PJ Hogan saw and I walked in and I said, I don't care what you want me to do. I don't care what it takes. I need this role. I'll put on weight. It's my mum. And we talked about it and he said, why does it resonate so much with you? And I said, because Shirley is my Shirley. And he went, no, it's my Shirley. Because it is his mum.
Really?
Yeah.
You, growing up and as a young woman, had often not liked the way you looked. So what was it like to see yourself up on the big screen looking like that?
Do you know what? I loved that character so much, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I found it interesting, though, when I was filming on the Gold Coast and I would walk down the street and quite often people would walk past me and go, oh, my God, is that Rebecca Gibney? She's let herself go. And that was a bit... It's for a film!
Yeah, sure, lady. Yeah.
So that was interesting. And just seeing the way people reacted to bigger people. And particularly when I had the fat suit on, the full makeup, and people couldn't even recognise me when I would walk to set. Just the way there was a kind of a pitying look to people, I found it so disturbing.
Your mum, Shirley, what was her reaction when she watched it?
She loved it. She loved it because I think she saw a part of herself in it as well.
What was it she saw?
Well, she raised 6 children pretty much single-handedly. I mean, my father was there, but as is kind of well documented, he was an alcoholic and had a lot of issues. But she just got on with it. And she was so caring and never wanting to take anything for herself. And even to this day, she's still the most giving. She just gives and gives and gives and never wants anything back. She's a saint, really. She's the epitome of kindness and compassion.
The beautiful thing about your mum is that she was in a long-term marriage with an alcoholic, violent husband, and yet she found forgiveness in a very unforgiving situation.
Yeah.
What effect did that have on you?
It was interesting because all through my teens growing up, I really didn't like my father. In fact, I could probably say I hated him because I blamed him for so much and so much misery and not having a normal life. And I could never bring friends home when I was a teenager because he would always be drunk. At that stage, he wasn't violent anymore. He was just a drunk and he would fall over. And so I couldn't bring my friends home. So I'd go to school and I'd hate him. And it was only when I had my nervous breakdown, I suppose, in my early 30s, and I started seeing a counsellor. And I was able to fully understand then how she was able to forgive him because I was talked through the stages of forgiveness because I realised that he's gone. You're hating them or being angry at them is doing nothing for them and everything to you.
Yeah.
It's ruining your life. So you've got to cry and get angry, but when you finally let that go, it's just quite an extraordinary experience. And I realised that's what Mum must have done a lot. I love Jane Hall.
Yes.
She's another one that one of those beautiful friends that I met when she was about 18, and I led her right up the garden path. I led her astray, and we've been best friends ever since.
How did you lead her astray?
Oh, I just took her out a lot.
And what happened?
I might have to leave it at that. Sorry, Jane. I'm sorry I have to tell this. I'm not going to say who it was.
When we last spoke 16 years ago, believe it or not, we talked about the panic attacks and the low self-esteem because of the relationship with your father. When you feel your chest tightening or that little voice comes back and says, Rebecca, you're no good, what's the best way to deal with that?
As I got older, I went, oh, well, I don't care anymore. And the truth is you do care.
Yeah.
Of course you care. It doesn't crush me anymore. It used to crush me. But I don't dwell on it so much anymore. I do take a deep breath and go, I'm okay with me.
It's one of the nice things about getting older and having a successful career is you can put it all in perspective.
Totally.
And there's enough evidence that you're doing fine.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued, though, that for someone with such self-esteem issues as you, why choose a career where you're centre stage and there's nowhere to hide?
I guess I didn't choose it, it chose me, really.
But you pursued it.
I did pursue it because I didn't know what else to do. Because I dropped out of school when I was, 15, 16. I didn't have qualifications. People kept employing me. And all through my 20s, I started going, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do if I don't do this. And then I started to go, oh, actually, I think I might be quite good at it.
It must have been tortuous, though. I think of you and around that time leading to your breakdown where you had to keep fronting up in public.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to leave the room.
No.
I mean, I find that extraordinary. That's a very punishing thing to do.
Well, also as an actor, you're so used to putting on a face that you get really good at it. And I was able to do that. Even my family didn't know the struggle that I was going through, which is why I think it's so important that we talk about it now, and I talk about it so openly, particularly in this day and age where things are sad and people are scared and there's fear with terrorism and just life is a struggle. And if we don't talk about it, if we don't share it, then there are going to be people out there struggling the way I did, and I think that's awful because I know what it's like to be in that pit, and it's a horrible place to be. So the more you talk about it and say you can get out of it, you just need to seek help, you just need to talk about it, you can get through it.
There is a path.
There is a path, yeah.
Let's move on to something slightly happier. I want to do a little bit of a random fact check because there's a few things we've found in our research. No, which are fascinating to me. I'm not entirely sure they're all true. You hung out with Michael Jackson.
I did. I met Michael Jackson.
Ooh.
Yeah, I
Actually,
did.
we did know that because we have a photo of you
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah.
You're on the right. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was that experience like?
Look, I grew up loving Michael Jackson, and I actually won a singing competition on the radio when I was 12 singing Ben. I won 48 cans of Coca-Cola. Don't know why they didn't make it 50. Maybe someone had drunk the other 2, but it was 48 cans of Coca-Cola. I just loved him. I loved I loved the Jackson 5.
And how was he to meet?
He was lovely. He was very shy and reserved, and
Yes.
he asked what I did. I said I was an actress, and he asked the show, and I said Flying Doctors. He said he hadn't seen that, but he had seen Country Practice. So
I see. Fact number 2, your real name is Belinda Gibney.
Yes. I was in Tasmania. We'd only been in Tasmania for a few months, and I went into the local butcher's one day, and as I walked in, the butcher was laughing his head off, and I said, "Hi, Dean, what's going on?" And he said, "Did you just see old Joe walking out the door?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, "Oh, well, you know, Joe just said that property prices are going to go through the roof now that movie star Belinda Dibney's moved in up the road." So it's stuck ever since.
So you're Dibbers.
I've been Belinda Dibney ever since.
Very good. Now, this one seems very strange to me. You proposed before you started dating your husband.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did. He was a production designer on Halifax.
Yes.
That's where we met. And he'd got me a flip-top phone for the character. And I asked him one day, I said, "Can I keep this?" And he went, "Oh, yeah, maybe." And then he put the container in my van and said, "Yes, you can have it." So I went out and I looked across at him and I said, "Will you marry me?" And he sort of got really shy and put his head down, and then at the end of the day I went back into my trailer and I opened up the canister, and inside he went, "The answer is yes."
Really?
And we went on a date a few months later, but he lived on the same street as me when we were 5 in New Zealand.
Well, this makes you related.
I know. No, that's the weird thing, because his auntie worked with my dad at the local dry cleaners, and we didn't know we lived on...
It's getting all a little uncomfortable for me.
It's weird, isn't it?
But why did you say, "Will you marry me"?
I don't know. When I first met him, I'd met him about 5 months prior to that. And you know when you meet someone sometimes and you just have that feeling, I know you, I've met you before, and even though you haven't, I literally shook his hand and he looked at his shoes and I felt, I know you, I feel like I've come home or something. It was bizarre.
Wow.
And we've been together ever since, and he is the most incredible human I know. He's amazing.
I will come back to Richard a bit later. That's a beautiful story. I love that. You gave Hugh Jackman his first on-screen kiss.
I did. I did, and it was so funny because we were doing Halifax and it was a full-on love scene, and we were practicing and he was kind of not kissing me properly. And I'm like, "Dude, what's going on? What, you know, am I that hard to kiss?" And finally I pulled him aside and we went into the trailer and I said, "Mate, what's going on? Why can't you kiss me?" And he said, and he'd just started dating Deborah Lee, and he said, "I feel like I'm being unfaithful to Deb." And I went, wow, if it's going to be so hard, close your eyes and think of Deb. Between action and cut. And he went, "Do you mind?" And I went, "No." So we did, and it was fine. And I rang her afterwards and said, "He's not that good." And they've been together ever since, and I was at their wedding, and it was awesome.
Gosh, I wish we had footage of it.
Oh, it's out there.
Yeah, we do. Here it is.
Oh, you have not?
Look, I really don't want to pray, do you mind? What was that for?
It's from me. For Christmas.
I'm old enough to be your mother.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Your future in this.
Oh my God.
We could last well into next year.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, I hope my husband's not watching.
I hope Deborah Lee's not watching it. Why is that so horrendous to watch?
Oh, because it's embarrassing. You know, I'm glad you didn't continue on, because it got even hot and heavier after that.
Yeah. Okay, last one. You enjoyed childbirth.
I did. I know, it's weird, isn't it? I'd heard so many horror stories.
Yeah.
And I actually found when I went into labour, my mum said, "You're born to do it." You know, and a lot of my friends went, "Just go with it, just go with it." And I was in the bath for a lot of it. Luckily in Launceston there was a bath. I was in the bath for a lot of it. I mooed a lot, like a cow, as you do. But I actually just kept thinking that this is what I'm here to do, and I was so excited about meeting this little creation inside me, and yeah, it was extraordinary.
I love the way you said then, luckily there was a bath in Launceston. You know there's more than one there, don't you?
Yes.
And hello to everyone in Launceston, but good on you for getting a couple of baths.
Launceston.
Launceston?
Launceston.
Launceston?
Launceston.
Oh, God.
It's not Launceston, it's Launceston.
Is this what you're like in real life?
Yeah.
Picky?
No,
picky?
because they're very particular about the way you say Launceston.
Do they? They're not like that in Hobart?
Lonnie. In Hobart?
You moved back to New Zealand, you've been 30 years away, and of course recently there was the massacre in Christchurch. How has that affected your homeland?
It was really tough. And I remember exactly where I was when I got the news of that it had happened. It was devastating because the one thing that my son said when we first moved back was, "Mum, I feel safe here. I feel really safe here." And so for that to happen in a country where we all felt safe, it was like someone had really pulled the rug out from under us.
We spoke to your good friend and bridemaid Jane Hall.
Did
she described you and Richard, your husband, as going together like arse and undies.
Did she really?
She did.
Of course she did.
Yes. Please tell me that was part of your wedding vows.
No, it wasn't. I love Jane Hall.
Yes.
She's another one that, one of those beautiful friends that I met when she was about 18, and I led her right up the garden path. I led her astray, and we've been best friends ever since.
And how did you lead her astray?
I just took her out a lot.
And what happened?
I might have to leave it at that. We went to an awards night one night and she was dressed up. Oh, sorry, Jane. I'm sorry I have to tell this. I'm not going to say who it was.
No, okay.
We were dressed up and she was still, I think, only about 22 still. And she looked incredible. And there was a famous musician person at this awards who then decided to take Jane up to his room.
Right.
And I was outside the door banging on it going, "Excuse me, Jane, I'm not leaving. And so I sat outside the room. I didn't.
Really?
Yep. And finally at about 4 a.m, she opened the door and she said, "Well, I'm not gonna, am I?" And I went, "No, you're not. You're coming home with me." And she came home. Yeah.
What a party pooper you are.
No. I know, but she's like my little sister.
So getting back to her description of you and Richard.
Arse and undies, yeah.
Who's the arse and who's the undies?
I'm probably all arse. It's probably me. I don't know. I think we are just... It's like I said, when I met him, we were just instantly best friends. We share the same everything. We like the same music, the same food. When we create something together, we're so in sync.
Every relationship has to have its fracture lines too, because that's part of what makes it interesting. So where do you guys have different footsteps?
Do they have to have fracture lines? I don't know. Yes, we disagree sometimes. I think he's a bit... I'm a bit soft on my son, and he's a bit tougher.
Oh, I see.
But then when I go away, he turns to butter.
So speaking of Zach, you said you want him to have the life that your father didn't have. What does that life look like?
I just give him everything he wants, which is probably not a good thing. I just want him to be secure and loved and know that he can be whatever he wants to be, and I'll support him 100%. I also want him to know that no matter what happens, no matter where he is, no matter what he's done, we will always be there and we won't ask questions, because no matter what you've done, I've probably done it worse. So...
you moved back to New Zealand, you've been 30 years away, and of course recently there was the massacre in Christchurch. How has that affected your homeland?
It was really tough because we're in Dunedin and that's where he was initially, the perpetrator, and we heard that he was going to carry out the attack in Dunedin as well, which was terrifying. And I remember exactly where I was when I got the news of that it had happened. It was devastating because the one thing that my son said when we first moved back is, "Mum, I feel safe here. I feel really safe here." And so for that to happen in a country where we all felt safe, it was like someone had really pulled the rug out from under us. And the only positive that came from it was that the incredible outpouring of support from everyone else and each other, and our incredible Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, who is just a phenomenal human, I think it's just brought everyone closer together and determined that that's not going to crush us or destroy us. But also the Australian response was extraordinary. It really did feel like the Anzacs, you know, it felt like we are one. And there was no blame that he was an Australian, because he was mentally deranged, that human, so he's just a person.
How do you help your young lad process something as dark as that?
We talked about it a lot, and I think he's at a very, very good school, and they talked about it a lot as well, and obviously the police presence was stepped up quite a bit. It's the world that we're in now, unfortunately. It's the world that our children are growing up in, and it's just something you have to talk about and just make sure that he's able to express his fears, which he does.
Yeah, and look, he's got a beautiful mum who reaches out to him in a very special way. This is some footage of you on Instagram with Zach, with the hashtag Sorry Not Sorry Zach.
Oh, no! He'll die when he sees that.
Is there any greater joy for a parent than to embarrass their teenage...
Do you know what? I wasn't going to do that, but interestingly enough, I just did a dancing video and I put it on Instagram ages ago, and I came home and Zach went, "What were you thinking?" And I went, "What do you mean?" And he went, "You're so embarrassing, Mum. You just don't do that." And I went, "Oh, you think that's embarrassing?" So it's kind of become our thing now.
Yeah. Well, it's so much a thing. Here's one you posted just today.
Oh, no! See, there are other things you could do with ironing boards.
I know. When I say I know, I have no idea. But so Zach's in Dunedin. You're here in Sydney. Are you expecting him to respond to that, or can you just?
He's already responded.
And what was his response?
He just went, "Oh, Mum, you've done it again." "Oh, yes, I have, darling." No, he's actually ringing to wish me good luck for
really?
today. Yeah.
So you're 54 now.
Yeah.
How's gravity treating you?
Pretty good. I got my Spanx on.
Me too.
It's it is what it is. I try to do the best with what I've got, but it's inevitable, isn't it? Aging's inevitable.
Yeah. I want to show something you put up on Instagram. No, this is lovely.
Okay.
This was last year, and you wrote next to it, "A few kilos heavier, can't read without my glasses, eyebrows need work, no makeup artist or hairdresser, but happier than I've ever been."
Yeah.
Now, this is not what Instagram's for.
Yeah.
You know how the script's meant to go. Many women struggle as they get older with how they think they look, they get work done, they feel insecure, but you're very happy to own it.
Totally. And look, that doesn't mean to say that if you want to get work done, get it done. If you want to get fat, you want to get thin. I just don't have a judgment around that.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to feel more comfortable with who I am. Doesn't mean that I don't want to make the best of what I've got, and I try and look after myself, and my health is important, but yeah, I'm much more inclined to just go, this is it. And, I look at Judi Dench and Helen Mirren and people like that, and they're ageing so beautifully, and Jackie Weaver, and they don't care, and they're still working, and I think, well, I'd like that. Yeah. I'd like to do that if I can.
I mentioned before Wanted.
Yes.
I want to show a clip from this. This was, you and Richard kind of came up with the idea, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it's been a big success. Here's a little bit of Rebecca in Wanted.
Chelsea! Chelsea! What the hell is happening? We've got to get out of here. What, should we wait for the police? The police are already here. But they can't all be bad. What, do you want to wait and find out? How much? We have to get out of here. Please
Chelsea,
stay.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's coming, but we have to leave now.
That was really interesting watching your face then, because in all the other clips you're like, but you were Miss Steele there.
I love Chelsea and Lola. I love Wanted. I'm proud of it.
But it's not just an idea you created. Your production company that you and Richard have made it.
Well, actually, funny enough, before Wanted, Richard and I had set up a production company, and we've been workshopping ideas and coming up with all sorts of stuff, and this was the first one that, I don't know, it just resonated with both of us, and then we took it to Matchbox, and literally within a week we were pitching it to Channel 7, and Channel 7 went, "We love it, it's great," and 3 months later we were shooting it, and then it was on air. It just happened like that.
I don't want to bring you down, but Channel 7 will put any old thing on.
Oh.
Was
It's on
that a little-
Netflix as well.
Well, in fact, it actually, I think it debuted, it was the most successful drama of the year it debuted, but it also got an international Emmy nomination, which that's big.
Yeah.
Tell me about the night of the awards.
You know, it was interesting because when we first came up with the concept and we were making the show, and I started writing International Emmy in my book years before we got the nomination.
In your book? What's your book?
It's a book where I cut out things that I would like and I stick it in my book and I go, thanks for that. I'll get that one day. That's going to happen.
This is witchcraft. What else is in your book?
Picture of you? No. Things like just holidays with family and things for my mum and things that I'd like to achieve.
And her humour is much naughtier than she's probably allowed to show in public.
Oh, well, that means you need to tell us what you're talking about. So I'd like to bring on now your co-star from Wanted,
yay.
Geraldine Hakewill. Geraldine, where are you? Welcome. We splashed out on the budget. We got you your own chair.
I'm so grateful.
Lovely to see you here.
Oh, it's very nice to be here. I feel very special.
Now, you guys formed quite a duo in Wanted. When we first spoke to you about joining us, the two words you used to describe Rebecca were no shame. Why
I'm sure there were other words as well.
There were other words, but this is a family show. We can't use them. Why no shame?
Because she is very much her own person. She's a very authentic human being, and I think that's why I responded so much to her when I first met her, because I wasn't sure what to expect in my first audition for this show, and I walked in the room and she had her glasses on and she was just in jeans and a T-shirt, but there was something very grounded and really silly and...
we're silly together.
And her humour is much naughtier than she's probably allowed to show in public.
Oh, well, that means you need to tell us what you're talking about.
Oh, she just loves setting people up.
What, for
she
example?
loves talking about boys.
I love matchmaking.
She loves matchmaking.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Did you try and matchmate Jerry?
Oh, totally. All the time.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even now, while I'm taken, she's always like,
No, Mark, I'm not.
So she would mentor you on the set?
Yeah, very much so. She was incredibly supportive. It was my first big TV role. I'd never experienced being on set for that long before, and Beck is very much a collaborator. And so she just brought me into this family that she has, that she makes for herself. You know, seeing her be executive producer, creator of the show, star of the show, and have to take those hats on and off at different parts of the day, that's a huge workload to be juggling, but she did it so gracefully and in such a way that made me go, oh, maybe I want to do that too one day.
She made it very easy to say.
Well, Beck, what do you love about Jerry?
Jerry, when she first walked in for the very first audition, she was Chelsea straight away. Like, we all knew. It was just a magic that Jerry has, and she has the brain of like an Einstein and the body of a supermodel, and she's really goofy and funny. And I knew what was coming, you know, the 13, 14-hour days and really hard being and everything. She never once faltered unless there was no food. And occasionally then I'd go, snacks, bring the snacks, Jerry, because she's like a racehorse. Food just like...
I've got a very high metabolism.
So you heard us talking before about Rebecca and anxiety and all the things she's been through in her career. It is an anxiety-making profession.
Oh, absolutely.
Being an actor. Was Rebecca able to help you with that as well?
Yes, very much. I have definitely battled anxiety and continue to all the time. But it's not debilitating anymore, and I think the more you are able to talk about it with people, the less it has control over your life. And I just got very lucky that I had a co-star who I was literally trapped in a boot of a car with for hours at a time. And we got on really well, and we were able to talk about things that we were going through in our lives. So
I have this image of you getting together once every 5 years in the boot of a car just to relive it. Yeah, that's right. This is great. What's the What's the life lesson that you're going to carry with you from Rebecca as you go through your career?
The way I see her carry herself on set in terms of how she deals with everybody, from the person who's moving the trucks at 3 a.m. and emptying the toilets to the person who's providing the money for the whole series. She treats everybody the same, and there's a real desire to connect with people and have fun with people. And Beck is so open, and maybe that's what I meant by no shame. She just allows people into her world, and I think that's what makes her such a loved person in Australia.
I'm going to...
It's true.
I want to finish up on what I think is the deepest emotional note we possibly can, which is your driving.
I'm a good driver.
She's
How
a
would you
really
describe
good driver.
her? Yeah.
She's a demon driver.
I'm a hoon.
Okay. Well,
She's better than some of our stunt drivers on the
Really?
show. She's
Well,
really good.
let's check out, Rebecca, let's check out Dibber's hooning.
Oh, no.
That poor bastard, he was just trying to return your wallet, you know. So what can you pull off in a car? How good are you?
I did a defensive driving course, obviously, but I love driving, and I've been driving on and off sets for 30-something years, so I know how to hit a mark, and this was another reason why I think we created this show, so I could just drive really fast.
Yeah. Do you think, will you guys work together again, do you think?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too.
You know, you never know, there might be another season of Wanted, but I definitely want to I could work with her every day for the rest of my life. She's amazing.
Oh.
Vomit.
Well, Geraldine, thank you very much for
thank
joining
you.
us.
Thanks
and
for having me.
Belinda Dibney, I'll never forget you as long as I live. Thank you so much, Rebecca Gibney.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is a segment we call the Guest Chair. It's open to anyone in Australia with a remarkable story to tell. Tonight, from Southern Cross in WA, 400 k's inland from Perth, please welcome Scott and Nicole Guarini. Welcome, Nicole.
Hello, nice to see you.
Scott, welcome. Now, Scott, this is your first time on television like this, is that right?
Yep.
And you too, Nicole?
Yes.
What's the nerve level like at the moment?
Oh, I'm pretty nervous.
Pretty nervous? Well, the thing is, just look at me. Look closely. Look. Now relax! There, I think we've settled everything down. So, Scott, I think the best place to start this is by showing a picture of you at the age of 4, because this is a beautiful, beautiful picture. Tell me what you were doing.
So I'd learnt about fundraising in 4-year-old kindy, and I decided I really wanted to do something to help others. And the hardest thing I could think of to do was to walk the 25 kilometres from my farm to town. And, yeah, I was doing that there, so that was my first walk.
OK, so your legs are this big when you're 4. So that's 100 kilometres for anyone else. How did you break this news to your parents?
They didn't take it very well. I asked one morning and they said no, I was too small, my legs were too little and I wouldn't be able to do it. And then after 2 weeks of annoying them, they finally said I could give it a go. They didn't think I could make it around the first corner, but yeah, I kept on going.
That's very impressive. So, Nicole, when Scott first came to you and Gary, did you just think, oh, well, you know, it's a 4-year-old thing, he'll be over it in a day?
Yeah, we just sort of thought he has no idea how hard it's going to be to walk that far, whereas Scott just looked at it and went, I just want to go for a walk and help people. That's what I can do. So I'm really thankful that in the end he convinced us and we said yes, because here we are, you know, in his 10th year and, yeah, he's done a lot of helping.
We're talking it's wheat country, so I'm assuming it's reasonably flat, yeah?
Yeah.
But still 25 k's. Did you want to walk by yourself, or was there a support vehicle?
So my dad was a support vehicle driver. My mum walks all the walks with me, except for last one where she had to retire. But
You broke her.
I couldn't keep up.
Can we see that picture again, because it's so gorgeous? So, Nicole, you were walking with Scott the entire way on this walk.
Yes, that's me in the background.
And as the kilometres ticked over, what were you thinking?
I thought, oh gosh, I don't want to walk any further. I was just waiting for him to sort of say, I've had enough, because he's only 4 and look at how little he is.
And what was he like at the end of the walk?
Well, we got to the Oval and he had some Freddo ice cream cake to celebrate, and then he started running around the Oval. So I said, I sort of hobbled back to the car and could barely walk the next day. So he recovered a lot better than me as well.
I think if I were you, I would have driven back home and left him there, because what have you created? So who were you raising money for that first time, Scott?
Well, all my money goes to telethon and helping sick kids and babies. So
I can explain a bit further, because I had the privilege to be at the telethon last year. The entire state of Western Australia gets engaged, and they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars for children's health research, and what you're doing is a part of that. So your first walk was 25 kilometres. Did this plant a seed for you? Did you think, I can do better than this?
yes, so the next year I walked the 25 kilometres again, but it was freezing cold, and so I decided I would retire from walking. And I came out of retirement the next year and I did the 25 kilometres again.
Whoa. You decided at 5 you were going to retire.
He got to the finish line and he said, oh, I'm so frozen, I'm going to retire from walking.
Right. And so your next walk, you were then 6, obviously a far more mature person. How far did you walk? Was it 25 again?
Yep, and then when I was 7, I decided my legs were longer and I wanted to walk further. Mm-hmm. And so I walked 41 kilometres.
I bet you were happy when Scott announced he was going to do that.
Well, it was a bit of a compromise, because he was talking about walking to the other side of Australia. So,
wow.
So we said, well, hey, let's start with a bit further than what you've been doing, rather than jumping into that.
Well, I've got great news for you, because we can't afford the plane fare back for you. So
we can walk back.
Whereabouts in Canada were you walking?
So it was the Berg Lake Trail in the Canadian Rockies.
And we didn't really investigate the incline and
we were little moths drawn to the pictures.
We were. And it didn't take long for us to realise we'd probably overcommitted.
How far have you taken the walking? What's your longest walk so far?
For the last 2 years, I've done 52-kilometre treadmill challenges, and I've also done an 82-kilometre hike in Canada.
Oh, really? Were you part of that hike, Nicole?
I was, yes. I had a bit of a terrible time.
What happened?
I slipped and hurt myself on the first night, and I knew I was in a bad way, but I didn't want to give up. I wanted to keep going on the adventure with everyone. And
plus, she wasn't sure the travel insurance would cover the medical evacuation.
Yes. I didn't want to end up with a big bill, and I just sort of was like, it's fine, I'll just keep going. But it was tough.
That's
really tough.
Kudos to you for completing it, and kudos for you for doing it. Whereabouts in Canada were you walking?
So it was the Berg Lake Trail in the Canadian Rockies.
Oh, so that's much more up and down than
it goes up Mount Robson,
right,
which is we found out after is the tallest mountain in the Canadian Rockies.
Oh.
And we didn't really investigate the incline and
we were little moths drawn to the pictures.
We were. And it didn't take long on that first day for us to realise we'd probably overcommitted.
Did a part of you think I should have quit when I was 5? Yep. You've brought a book with you. This is your book, yes?
Yes, it's called Did You Know You Can Change the World? And I wrote and illustrated it myself.
Take a look. And this is for who?
It goes and explains about how everyone can change the world, and then it goes into a bit of my story.
It's very good. It's unusual for many people, in fact, to actually, if you pardon my French, to get off their arse and do something. People think they should, but they don't often actually do it. Why do you think you wanted to take action as opposed to just thinking and talking?
I wanted to help sick kids and babies and raise money to help them get better. And my brother also has autism, and we got funding to be able to help him with that.
For early intervention. And it really changed his world. He's year 5 now, he's fully mainstream, and that's thanks to the early intervention that he received.
You have seen practically how somebody's world can be changed by this kind of help. Do you know how much money you've raised in the last 9 years?
In total, I've raised $155,000.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's more than I earn in a week. That's very... that is very, very impressive. And you got to meet the Prime Minister recently, is that right?
Yes, well, I gave him my book, which said, "From one Scot to another, you can change the world." And so, yeah, that was pretty exciting.
Scott, how far do you want to take this?
So he's got his 6th marathon and 10th walk down the Coolyonobbing Road, which is where our farm runs along. And his Damien, he's going to be riding his push bike out the front of the pace setter.
He doesn't do a very good job of it, though. We'll be here and he'll be...
And then he calls out and says, "You're meant to keep up with me." Yes. And we say, "We can't go that quick."
Well, he probably thinks you're not doing a very good job.
Oh, he thinks it's wonderful because he's out the front, he's winning, you know, so...
You seem to have a beautiful son here. Please tell me he does something wrong.
Oh, all the time. No, he's a very good boy. However, I think anyone probably who attempts to walk a marathon would recognise you have to have a certain inner strength to be able to get through that distance. You know, there's been times where Scott's been laying on the road crying, saying, "I'm just not sure if I can get there." And he'll pick himself up and then he'll keep walking. And that's really hard as a mum, you know, to watch. But, you know, that inner strength, that strong will is also very hard to parent. So, yes, it's his best quality, but it's also his most difficult as well.
And Scott, when you're lying on that road, what does keep you going?
Well, I think about all the sick kids and babies that I'm helping, and I keep going for them.
It's damn impressive. I know there's only the 2 of you here today, but I feel you're representing the entire family. Thank you both very much, and well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.